Hi. That was totally staged, which is totally fine. So things are going to be a little bit different with the YouTube channel now. And I wanted to do a video that sort of explains what's happening, where I've been, and what I want to do with the channel moving forward. So if you've subscribed to me before, which I'm going to pull up the channel real quick. I have it here, which there are like 2.5 thousand, 2,500 of you, which isn't, huge. It's not going to get me a silver play button anytime soon, but that's a decent amount of people. Like that could fill a theater. And some of you well, listen, so I think that a lot of you are going to have subscribed to me based on the videos that I've put out and maybe the more notable ones. So I've got them here and some previous, oh, by the way, so I plan on also posting this as a podcast. So if you're listening to this through just podcast only, hello, this is Film Gayze. It's a channel that was created initially to focus on some of the film industry's most influential queer artists, characters, and stories. That's what I originally put when I started the channel, December 7th in 2020, so 6 years ago, and I've uploaded 9 videos. Let's just pull up the calculator real quick. Okay, so, and I'm sure there are quicker people who can, sound off into their phone right now telling me what 6 divided by 9 is. So that's 0.6 of a video per year, which is great. I mean, wait, did I do that wrong? Did I do that the wrong way? I did 6 divided by, no, I did more than point. So I need to do it the other way around, right? Yes. Okay. So it's 1.5 videos per year. That's pretty good. I'm looking down at my dog. That's right over there. That's not bad. For me. And this is sort of the root of the problem that I want to get at, which is I'm not putting enough content out there in the world. And I know that people are begging for content from me. And so I thought, well, how can I make myself do more with the channel in the way that I wanted it to be, which was this channel where I could explore through for my own benefit, selfishly, but I wanted to take people along with me where I could explore other queer media, specifically films. I'm not looking for TV shows necessarily. I don't want to cast too broad of a net because already cinema is wild. Like you could focus on just one of queer cinema. And I've just decided to do it all, which is fine. And I said in my original YouTube description that I was focusing on queer artists, characters, and stories because I didn't want to be limited to just cinema back then. And we can talk about some of the videos that I did and maybe why I did them, going back to the original 5 years ago. So if you're still with me after all this time, if you're one of the original subscribers, if you're new to the podcast, to the YouTube channel, and you're just sort of tuning in, I want this to be a collaborative sort of process. I want the audience to have a say in what the channel sort of looks like. Do I? Maybe I'll scratch that. Maybe I don't trust actually the audience enough for them to have a say. I need to think about this. I need to also stop pausing the videos because I've started this over several times now. I think what I want the podcast and YouTube channel to be is sort of in the line of some of my favorite podcasts. Blank Check with Griffin and David. This had Oscar buzz, Fighting in the War Room. Just sort of channels that are looking at films, and with, Fighting in the War Room, they don't necessarily look at one film. They're more of a cultural podcast, but less video essay, which is fine. I feel like there are enough video essayists out there on YouTube that we can get away with not another one. And also they're much, much better than mine. Like if we look back at what my first video was, which was straight actors in queer roles, which I still feel I do still have my opinions about. But the reason why that one was my first video, I always wanted to create some sort of intellectual YouTube channel because I was obsessed with primarily Nerdwriter was a great inspiration, but just any sort of video essayist. And I was kind of craving to get my opinion out there, as people who do social media often are. So I did straight actors in queer roles, mainly because I had written an essay for college. I went to NYU, and I wrote this essay for one of my classes. And when I was starting the channel, I was like, ugh, already from the beginning, looking for a way not to sort of do the task at hand. I was like, you know what? I already have a script written. I'm just going to basically do a video essay of my actual essay. And that is what straight actors in queer roles is. And when you watch it, which I don't advise anyone goes back and watches it, I'm not going to take it down because it already sort of got taken down by the moderators or whatever, because it has clips that I stole from the films. But you can very much tell that it's all over the place. And that is because I was meeting some sort of minimum source requirement that is often required of essays. So that was me being lazy from the get-go. So the channel was doomed to sort of never come into this weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly sort of video upload schedule that I wanted it to be. But the straight actors in queer roles actually got a decent amount of hits. It got 6.8k views, and the comments, there was people in the commenting section going off, because I think it's a topic that people do have opinions on, and I still have my opinions on it that don't necessarily differ that much from the straight actors in queer roles video. However, some of the comments made me think, okay, people aren't, and it's probably fully my fault, people aren't quite getting what I was saying when it came to straight actors in queer roles, because I'm going to settle it right now, actually. I absolutely believe that that straight actors can authentically play queer parts. I don't have any qualms against that. I don't think it is on the same level as representing another race at all. Stanley Tucci is one of our finest presenters of queer characters, and famously heterosexual, but also famously gay. What I have an issue with is when those roles are not at least considered for queer people, but then actively sort of removed from even the conversation. This happens a lot less now, I believe. I genuinely think that casting is doing their best to find authentically queer people in media. The other tricky thing, which I didn't go into in my video, was that I believe it's against the law to even sort of ask someone whether like their sexuality, it can come across as discriminatory in casting, which you obviously don't want. However, you do want stories that are being portrayed authentically by the people that they are trying to represent. Otherwise, you get into territory where you are, appropriating cultures, beliefs. Maybe I'll cut that beliefs. I don't know what I was saying when I was saying belief. Anyway, what was I talking about? Queer actors, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and so what I was thinking about, especially when it came to straight actors in queer roles, is when they are roles being given to virtually unknowns, and then those queer films, which are of, moderate to larger budget queer films that are still casting unknowns, they then create stars. And if you think about some of the famous examples of straight actors who have played queer roles recently, and I'm talking, I guess, within the last 10 years. We don't have to go back too far because, yeah. I think of some of the more famous examples being like Timothée Chalamet, which is included in the clip, the thumbnail, whatever it's called. Timothée Chalamet in, what's the film? Everyone's screaming. Come on, what's it called? What is it? Girls, come on. Call Me By Your Name. Okay, everyone shut up. I got it. Call Me By Your Name. Timothée Chalamet and Call Me By Your Name. Fantastic performance. Really great. Straight actor, right? God's Own Country. What's his face with the ears? Also straight actor. Josh Schmishmi, whatever his name is. Queer actor. No, straight actor. Queer role. God's Own Country. Kind of Paul Mescal-ish in The Strangers, whatever that one's called. All of Us Strangers, which I did a video on. Didn't touch on that subject. Because that character is kind of not really regarded. If you watch the film, you know what I mean. Like that's a bit of a. I'll let Paul get away with that one. What else? We got that one actor who cannot stop playing queer roles. Nathaniel. What's he's He-Man. No, yeah, He-Man. What's his name? Masters of the Universe. Nicholas Galitzine. Super famous actor, right? Pretty up there. Will not stop actually playing queer characters. It's kind of funny. Look, Red, White, and Royal Blue. Played a queer actor in that. Handsome Devil. Played a queer actor in that. Bottoms, I'm sure he plays someone gay in that. Just by the sounds of it. Loves it. Loves to play queer characters. Oh my god, there's another one that I just thought of. What is it called? Rat Beach? No. Rat something. Rat Boy? What's his name? He's in Triangle of Sadness. Sorry, I don't want this podcast / video to be just me Googling what people's names are, because I can't seem to remember it. Harris Dickinson. Also got Beach Rats. That's about queerness as well. I believe. I haven't actually seen that one. Everyone shut up. Let's just have a quick read. An aimless teenager on the outer edges of Brooklyn is having a miserable summer. With his father on his deathbed and his mother wanting him to find a girlfriend, Frankie escapes the bleakness of life by causing trouble with his delinquent friends and flirting with older men online. Queer. Gay. When his chatting and webcamming intensify, he finally starts hooking up with guys at a nearby cruising beach while simultaneously entering into a causacious relationship with a young woman. Okay, a bi film, potentially. Or maybe it's just gay for pay. Anyway, my point that I'm making with all of these actors, who are all fantastic and really portrayed great characters, great queerness, is that they have catapulted their careers. Now, I'm not saying Beach Rats sent Harris Dickinson off into the stratosphere with his career, because he's made other conscious moves that have launched him to where he is. My gripe with straight actors playing gay roles is that if we had placed a queer actor in that role to authentically portray just as well as those men, probably, that we would have more queer people in the public eye today. And if you just look at where Timothée Chalamet's career has gone after Call Me By Your Name, he got an Oscar nomination for that, right? No out queer actor has ever received the win for an Academy Award in acting in a leading role. Supporting roles are different. And also previously closeted queer people have won leading actor roles. No out person has won. And I get to that in the video, that it's talking about something a little bit deeper when it comes to the Academy, that there's a belief that no and whether you believe that this is conscious or not, that no leading out man can seem to grab the leading actor trophy. There are a lot of reasons why men don't get the Academy Award. And I'm not saying that their queerness is the one reason, but it's just a bit sus. But I mean, we've only just recently had several breakthroughs in the leading actor category. I'm not expecting things to sort of change overnight. It takes time. I get that. Anyway, that's a whole... I don't know why I was going on that tangent about that video. But so I'm not going to take that down because I do stand by some of the things in it. But I do acknowledge that that is a very bad, not great video essay. And not fully what the channel was about. Then we go on to my other videos, which it takes a little bit of a turn. You can watch the videos and see that I'm kind of sort of figuring things out. Morris versus Brokeback Mountain was just because I was obsessed with those two movies. And that was very much me forcing a narrative around two videos that I had critically analyzed in my own head and so found easy to do so. And they were sort of close together. I believe I was still living in New York at the time when I did those two. And then we go to the gay cowboy trope, gay penguins, all of us gay Gen Xers, Rustin and the challenge of advocacy, tackling masculinity and the history of sound. Those are all my videos that I've done up until present date. All focusing on separate things. Super proud of the gay penguins one. Great that the all of us gay Gen Xers took off. If you haven't seen that one, that is my most popular video. And I think it's because it's about Gen Xers and it specifically is calling to a whole generation. So a lot of people are drawn to it. Whether it's my best video, I don't know. So there are a few things that I want to do with the channel moving forward. One of them is that I want this to be a podcast as well as a visual thing. I want to keep up my video editing now that I have a better laptop, but I also want it to be something that can be taken, I guess, consumed in multiple ways. If I'm going to be recording my voice anyway, you don't need to see my mug. Like, I can just have it also be a podcast at basically no extra cost, which is great. And I want it to be less video essay-y. And I say that because the hope is for me to post more videos to the channel, to build a community around queer cinema. And whether that's the lofty goal, that there is actually a community that is built where we can sort of come together and chat about films that we like, that are queer in some way. Whether that happens or not is another thing. I think what stopped me a lot from posting was I needed to have some sort of take, and I needed to be bang on the money, like with whatever was trending. That's what I attempted with the history of sound and challenges and bisexuality, which I don't think I said before. That was also one of my videos, which I'm very proud of. Also got not a bad amount of views. I'm just looking at them now, actually. Gay Penguins, 1K. Flop, right? Straight actors in queer roles got 6.8. I was like, okay, work. Let's try this again. Maurice versus Brokeback Mountain, sort of niche, 2.6K views. Not too shabby, considering I don't think many people are watching Maurice, even though they should. My God. What is it called? Merchant and Ivory. So good. Also, unprecedented. Like, I don't think we have anything like Merchant and Ivory today. Like, those two were unstoppable. I was like, okay, great. Oh my God. Okay. 6.8 for straight actors, then 2.6 for Maurice. I was like, okay, I can see that there's a dip in the sort of thing. So I was like, whatever. I waited 2 years and then I posted again. The gay cowboy trope. The reason why I posted this one was because this was the year of, come on. I'm so bad at remembering things, apparently. Not What the Dog Saw, not Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night. I'm thinking of another dog. Jane Campion. What is it called? Grossy Economy. The Power of the Dog. Okay. The Power of the Dog was coming out and getting a lot of traction. There was the comments that Sam Elliott made about gay cowboys, and I was like, okay, let's look at this critically. And there's a precedent for it, and there's a reason why we are interested in it. And funnily enough, it was another video that contained Brokeback Mountain, which, yes, I'm obsessed with. I'm not obsessed with it, not anymore. I do like that movie. I know it has its issues. People don't like the gay sex depicted in that. They sort of just enter into without any lubricants. That is, leave it to gay men to get up in arms about. I guess it does matter how it is represented, but it was logistically, I'm not going to watch a film about how one douches and prepares. I guess actually I would watch. Not in that film. Those men aren't douching. Come on. But let's just suspend your disbelief. You're going to the cinema to watch purple people snap fingers so that spider people don't exist. Like we can suspend the disbelief just a little bit so that maybe these two cowboys are able to effortlessly make love in a tent without the need for a lubricant. But also, we didn't get to see that sex scene, so maybe there was some sort of lubricant. Oil. Cowboys deal with oil all the time, I assume. Moving on. Gay cowboy trope. 22K. Huge. Huge for me, if true. And it was true 3 years ago. So I saw that, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a YouTuber. I can quit my job. And then I was like, you know what's next? Gay penguins. So not my smartest career move. I think I was like, one for them, one for me. And I guess gay cowboys was one for them. And gay penguins was one for me. I was reading this book at the time called Queer Ecologies. Highly recommend. Very fascinating book. And I think I had a lot of thoughts in this big old brain. Look at this forehead. It's big. I got a lot of thoughts going around, bouncing, because there's a lot of room in there, bouncing off the walls. And I was like, I have to get this out. I want to say something about the intersection of nature and queerness, because that's a lot of what the book is about. It's basically got a bunch of essays on different things. So I was like, you know what? Gay penguins, come on. We can rally behind this. This is a cute animal. Didn't land the way that I thought it was going to land. Only 1,000 people viewed that one, which is totally fine. That's like that's like half my subscribers at the moment. And so I was like, okay, whatever. Maybe I'm not going to be a YouTuber. That's fine. It's fine. And then I did this All of Us Gay Gen X's, which is all of us strangers. Not sure why this one hit. My biggest video to date, 92,000 views. Huge. People talking in the discourse, giving me shit for saying the word queer, because back in their day, it was a slur, which is fair enough. I'm going to use queer. I'm so sorry. I'm not saying LGBTQIA+ every time. Queer is an umbrella term. It is accepted as an umbrella term. Everyone just has to buck up and move along. Sorry. And then so I was like, oh, yes, it's happening again. My big break. It's time for me to be a YouTuber. No. I then was like, what is happening with, what else is queer that's happening and maybe coming out or out recently, I think, was my thinking. And Rustin, which was a pretty good film. I enjoyed it. I don't think everyone enjoyed it. I think that Colman Domingo is fantastic in it and well-deserved his Oscar nomination. Potentially even a win, but who won over him that year? I remember he wasn't ever going to win. Cillian Murphy? Or am I looking for 2023? Brendan Fraser, yes, he swept. He swept. Swept the floor. Okay. Am I wrong? Okay, I'm wrong. Okay, it was the year of Oppenheimer. Okay, I thought I was losing my goddamn mind. People screaming at me, whatever. I don't care. Okay, so he lost to Cillian Murphy. Fair, whatever. That was never going to happen for Coleman Domingo. Great performance though, and I was like, I used this video on Film Gayze was used as a way to research the real person more, and I learned a lot. And that's when it sort of clicked in my head that this YouTube channel should selfishly be mostly about me and learning my queer history. And then I was like, but that one didn't get a lot of views. Not a lot of people like that one. 350. Rough. And I spent a decent amount of time putting that one together. This was the other thing. A lot of these videos took too much time to edit. Too much time. That's another reason why I never wanted to do them, because you had the time to formulate the script, time to record the script, edit the recording, edit the video. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to do this every week. Who am I kidding? Then Challengers came out, or was already out, I'm not sure. And I was like, okay, I have some thoughts on bisexuality. And that was great. I had a great time, and we're back to hitting. We're hitting with the 47K views. And masculinity, I was trying to capitalize on Heartstopper. Didn't work. Fair enough. Whenever I try, doesn't work. Whenever I don't try, works. Gay Penguins is the exception to that. Then we did Why the History of Sound. Why the History of Sound is perfect for film. Maybe not a statement that I would stand by to this day, but 35K views. That was before I had even seen the movie. So the movie could have been a total flop, and I would have had to stand by that. So that's where we're at with the Chanel. Moving forward, it's just going to be a hangout. I think I'm going to want to tackle a different movie each episode. I want it to be sort of weekly if I can manage it. I need to just put this out into the world and say it, and then have to deal with the consequences of that not coming to fruition, if you know what I mean. This is the only way that I'm going to be held accountable. So each week, I'm going to look into, watch, and discuss by myself, or maybe I'll have guests, a different queer movie. And what I'm going to use as my guide is a book called The Queer Cinema Guide. Haven't got it yet. I want to buy it, but it's going to come like end of September. So I'm actually going to borrow it from the library, and I'm going to use this as a guide for what movies I'm going to watch each week. It's a book written by Kyle Turner, and it's basically what it says. We can judge the book by this cover. It's a queer film guide, 100 great movies that tell LGBTQIA+ stories. It was released recently, I believe, 2023. So it's 3 years old, which is fine. Let me read some sort of blurb of it. Okay, so the Queer Film Guide, 100 great movies that tell LGBTQIA stories by Kyle Turner. Enjoy your night in with these movies that tell queer stories. Have you noticed something about every 100 greatest movies ever made lists? The people in those movies, they're almost all straight white men. With so much incredible cinema to choose from, those lists only begin to peer in. With so many great cinema, come on, just read what's in front of you. With so much incredible cinema to choose from, those lists only begin to peer into the cinematic and wider world. It's time to push past the gatekeepers of what makes a movie great or culturally significant and get a broader view of what's out there. Kyle Turner has selected 100 of cinema's greatest queer films that are that are often overlooked but foundational to the art form and the wider culture. Starting in early cinema with trailblazers like Making a Man of Her and Different from Others. See, I've never heard of those. Great. The list progresses through the eras, from Hitchcock's Rope to cult classic The Rocky Horror Picture Show to today's fast-growing list of queer films, including Carol, The Duke of Burgundy, and Moonlight. From lesser-known names to the Academy Award winners, the Queer Film Guide offers a fresh take on what defines great cinema, lending a voice to the diverse creators and characters who've shaped the art form. Damn. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm going to be using. We're not going chronologically, because that would just be a whole lot of we need to have the freedom to move throughout the eras so that we can weave sort of it into what's going on culturally right now, and then also just so that we don't get sort of stuck into some sort of rut. I was thinking that we do it where I tell you ahead of time what next week's film is going to be so that you can watch it. Yes, that works for me. And that way we can come together and discuss it. Because ultimately, I do not want it to be a critique of these films. I am not a critic. What I want to be is a curator. What does that mean? That means that instead of thinking about these films and perhaps what they did right and what they did wrong, we can still talk about those things, but I don't want to judge the film too harshly on those parameters. I, of course, do the ratings, Letterboxd, and all that stuff. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking to almost create my own list or just my own library. That's how I like to think of it. If I was to own DVDs, VHS tapes, CDs, DVDs, whatever, books, what would I want to put on my shelf? It's a lot more curated these days because we don't need to have these physical medias anymore. We have it all online. So the personal libraries, whether that be movies, music, books, have become more curated. So I believe that we are all curators. We shouldn't all be critics. I don't think there's enough critics in the world, and they do fantastic jobs, and critics have their place. I'm not an anti-critic. I just don't want to join them. And that's what I was kind of doing in my video essays, right? Critiquing a little, especially the earlier ones. But I want to be a curator. I want to find stuff that I enjoy and hold it close to me, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense? A critic evaluates and judges individual works through deep analysis, while a curator selects, groups, and contextualizes works to build a broader narrative or experience. Yes. So that is sort of what I would like to go for. And if I start to, seep into criticism, maybe you guys can just stop that. Don't be doing that. That's not what you wanted to do. This does make me feel like that I need to come up with a movie for next week, but I haven't thought about that because I haven't got the book in front of me. I'm not going to know what. Well, let's just do. People, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There's ones here that are clearly in the book. Let's do Carol. No, Carol's a Christmas movie. Ugh, what are we going to do? This might be the thing that kills me for actually doing this video series. I might not be able to pick a film. Just think of a film and pick it. I think he has a Letterboxd. Oh, yes, here we go. I'm going to have to look up the Letterboxd. Okay. Actually, this will be interesting. Okay, so here's the 100 great films. Spoiler alert for anyone who... And let's see how many of these I've actually watched. Okay. I haven't seen a majority of these because I am a bad queer person. And this is why I'm doing this, because I've not seen this stuff. Okay, crazy that Angels in America is there. I guess that's a TV series, but that's fine. It's fine. He's got some crazy pics on here, actually. I've seen beats per minute. Fine. Okay. I've heard some great things about some of these. I'm just going to list some of them for you while I'm looking. So we've got Fire Island, beats per minute, The Duke of Burgundy, Tomboy, Saving Face, Southern Comfort, All About My Mother, But I'm a Cheerleader, which, listen, I know I haven't seen that one. Everyone stop yelling at me. Okay. Apparently, I've not seen any of the earlier ones, so that could be fun. Let's start with But I'm a Cheerleader. Let's do that one. Let's watch that for the next one. So that's what I'll be covering in the next video. This video, I just want to quickly say that I went and saw Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma last night. And what a trip that was. So it says a queer director making a slasher franchise sequel becomes obsessed with casting the original film's final girl, leading both women into psychological and sexual chaos. That's a pretty good log line for Camp Miasma. What I loved about this film was the world building that it had and the unapologetic and unafraid to go there and to reference or to not reference just horror film in general. There's a lot to be said about this film that I'll try maybe to say right now if you're interested. If not, just log off. So the main villain, like the Jason or the Mike Myers of this Teenage Sex and Death franchise, the Camp Miasma, franchise, is called Little Death. And I don't think it's like, this isn't the hot take, and it's also not the in-depth critical analysis. Little Death is what the French call... I just had my legs were crossed in a weird way. Little Death is what the French call the orgasm, right? French for orgasm. No. Oh, here we go. It's a cultural expression. L'appétit. I assume that is how you say it. When I try to pronounce anything in French, I just assume that most of it is not said. L'appétit. It's probably like mo. Here we go.
La petite mort.
Oh, I forgot the La petite mort.
La petite mort.
La petite mort. The little death. The French phrase la petite mort literally translates to the little death in English. What it means: sexual climax. The phrase is a figurative expression and euphemism for an orgasm. It describes the brief moment of exhaustion, zoning out, or lightheadedness that can happen right after sex. Writers and philosophers sometimes use it to describe a temporary loss of self, awareness, or deep emotional surrender during extreme pleasure. So that's pretty obvious, right? I think it should be obvious for audiences, at least people who are French audiences, that the Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma villain's name is Little Death. So this is about pleasure, desire. This film is about orgasm and sex. It's about sex and death. It says it right there in the title. I'm not being that deep by saying that. It has a lot to say about how pleasure and being almost hurt, or there's a fear that comes along with sexuality as well. And I can't speak for it myself, obviously, but I feel like maybe women do experience that a little bit more, especially with what society sort of expects of women when it comes to sex. It's also very interesting that Little Death, the character, his head is basically like a air ventilation unit, if you know what I mean. If you can picture what an air vent, an exhaust air vent, air conditioner sort of looks like as it spews from your roof, spews the beautiful aircon air down onto you. If you pictured like the classic square ones that have then another square and another square and another and another and another, that is what Little Death has on his head. And I believe that's because when you're down on your back, getting, penetrated or whatever, about to experience a little death, you might be focusing on that, the roof. And on the roof is the air ventilation system. And a whole part of the film, spoilers, by the way, potentially for Camp Miasma, is that a whole part of the film has to do with leaving your body during sex. I'm shaking just even thinking about it. Leaving your body during sex and viewing yourself from someone else's angle. Now, that is an often trope of someone who is experiencing unwanted sexual actions. The sensation of leaving one's body, pretending that you're viewing the incident from somewhere else. Within the film, it's not positioned that way. It's more positioned as a way to sort of get through the sex and enjoy it more. But I definitely think that Little Death is... the character asks you to pretend like you're the killer coming into the bedroom just as the young teenagers are having sexual intercourse. And then at the climax, that's when the death happens. The little death. And so, yeah, I think it's a complex film dealing with a lot of things that I don't think your average cinema goer is going to deal with, or engage with, which I'm very sad about. My experience with seeing Little Death was very annoying. Oh, not Little Death. With seeing teenage sex and death at Camp Miasma was very annoying. Let me digress and tell you that story. So I went to see it. I knew that it was playing at my local cinema as part of their recent queer film festival, I believe. They're having like a queer something. And this was showing. So I was like, sick. I'm going to go, and it's going to be a part of this festival lineup. And there's going to be a bunch of queer people that I can interact with, rub elbows with. So I go into the cinema completely empty. No one is there. I'm like, fine. A private screening grows the economy. It's great. I walk in and I get my best seat. It's quite a small screen, so I go, 3 rows back, and I sit in the middle. And I'm by myself. I go to the cinema by myself. I don't have time to find someone to go with. And also, that's a lot of pressure. You take someone to go see a cinema, they're going to be like, what the hell was that? And you're like, sorry, I just wanted to see it. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, great. Private screening. Then, in comes a couple, straight couple. I would describe them as British-esque, as in if you can picture the people that sort of go on their monthly trip to Ibiza, then that's exactly what entered into the cinema. And I was like, oh my God, no, maybe they're in the wrong cinema. Maybe they're going to see Tony or Spider-Man or whatever is out right now, and they've just stumbled into the wrong one. No, they're here to see teenage sex and death at Camp Miasma. So they're here with me. But and here's the biggest red flag. When they enter into the cinema, they go, oh, it's empty. My little bald ass head sitting there, like, hi, how y'all doing? Like, I'm facing forward. They can see the back of my head. And they go, it's empty. No, it's not. I'm sitting right here. Queer erasure as soon as they enter. It's fine. They walk down and they sit in the front row. Now, this is the type of cinema, and this is going to sound horrible, that has bean bags at the front. In what world someone would elect to sit in the beanbag like this close to the cinema screen? I have not a Scooby, but they're there. There's 3 massive beanbags at the front of the cinema. And so they don't sit in them, but they do sit in the front row, directly in front of me. Because obviously I picked the best seat in the house, so they were trying to approximate where the second best seat would be, I guess. And they get their stupid bean bags and they decide to use them as footrests, I guess, but they faff around with them for so long. And I'm like, can you just settle down, please? You know when your dog is like moving around on the bed? And you're like, can you just sit? I just want to be like that to that straight couple, and they got their wines. And they talk through the entire film. About what? I'm not sure. Like, shut up. Enjoy the film. Enjoy the cinema. Just zip it. And they talk the whole time. But thankfully, I couldn't hear them. He gets up to leave to get more drinks. Gets up, walks halfway up the stairs, turns around, goes back to her. Oh my God. I was like, streaming has killed the cinema experience. It's fine. I'm not going to harp on about it. But I will. So they're just chatting the whole time, and this is not who I wanted to experience this viewing with, because I love this film. The director, the writer who also did the TV Glow one, Jane. I'm sorry, I'm gonna mispronounce their last name. Schoenbrunn. I can read IPA. I can try to read IPA. Yes, so they did I Saw the TV Glow, which I heard some critics say that I Saw the TV Glow was sort of about coming into transness, and then this one's sort of about owning that sexuality and exploring that. Not sure if that's true or not, but I love their work. And I love Hannah Einbinder and Gillian Anderson. So I was just looking forward to this film. And it wasn't ruined by the straight couple. There's this like theater, there's this belief in theater, I believe it is. I think it's called theater spaces. And it was created by, when I was studying at NYU, I had this teacher and her husband popularized this theory, but we had learned about it many years earlier, where like there are rings to one's experience in the cinema, and everything that you experience before walking into the theater and everything that sort of happens after and during your experience at the cinema affects how you take in what is being presented to you. So I'm not saying that the movie was worse because I experienced it with my straight couple friends. It was definitely affected by it, and I 100% blame them, Mr. and Mrs. Ibiza in the front row. And then I could hear her at the end being like, what the fuck was this? What the fuck did you just take me to? Like, this is crazy, like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, it's because it's not for you. Oh, okay, so I feel like I've yapped on enough. The beginning of this episode compared to the end of this episode, you know, chalk and cheese. At the top, I was all chalk. Now I'm all cheese. Did I say anything? I think we all get the gist. This is just going to be an introductory sort of to what the new Film Gayze vibes are. If you want to come along with me for it, I would love to have you. If not, you can just not come along with me for it. But I would really love it if you subscribed or kept subscribing. Please don't watch this and unsubscribe. I might, you know, if you do that, you know. We'll just do some thanks. I'd like to thank the setup for working. I'd like to thank my phone for not dying on me. I'd like to thank my 3D printer for printing this Oscar that I have in my hand as my microphone. Okay, well, that's all from me. Tune in every week. We're going to do this every week. If you want to hang out with me every week, let's do that. Be kind to yourself, and goodbye.